What's going on, YouTube? Oftentimes, when choosing an SUV, people have to pick either on-road luxury or utilitarian capability. However, there is a select group of SUVs that can do both, and we're comparing two of them today, the Lexus LX570 and the Mercedes G-Wagon. These are SUVs that look just as home cruising through LA as they do climbing sand dunes in the desert. But which of them is the ultimate combo of luxury and capability? Let's go ahead and find out. Now, this comparison is not really about price as much as it is about the ultimate capability. That being said, it's important to note that the price difference is extremely large. Our Lexus LX570, after adding pretty much every option available, stickers in at $98,850 after destination. Our G-Wagon, on the other hand, is lightly optioned, yet the version we used for this test still cost $140,285. That's obviously about a $42,000 price difference, but to people looking at vehicles like these, that would likely be considered inconsequential. So starting out here with the exterior designs and features, they both have pretty iconic shapes that won't be mistaken for anything else. And there is also plenty of bling to show that they are the brand's flagships. The G-Wagon has an intensely square design that will remind you and others of its roots as a military vehicle. And to make things look even more rugged, the front is adorned with huge bull bars. Meanwhile, the Lexus also grabs a lot of attention, but it is due to the gigantic grille that dominates the front. While it doesn't look quite as tough, it certainly has a ton of road presence, especially with the bold triple beam LED headlights framing the spindle grille. The Mercedes also has LED headlights, but it does without the LED fog lamps that the LX has. We'll save the various ground clearance and angle discussions for later in the off-road section, but continuing to the back design, again the G-Wagon is the flashier of the two. Beyond that though, both of them have full-size spare tires in case of a flat, LED taillights, and hidden exhaust pipes, though the G-Wagon's actual exhaust sound is much better than the Lexus. The only other style-related item to mention are the wheels, which are 2 inches larger on the Lexus. Now, as far as some of the other features, the Lexus has a height-adjustable suspension, which is something that the G-Wagon doesn't offer. And, as you would expect, both of them offer all the latest safety technologies as standard equipment, including pre-collision braking with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, and auto high beam headlights. Next, we have the warranties, which are quite different from each other. Lexus is going to cover the basic components the same length of time. However, it includes an additional 2 years and 20,000 miles for the powertrain. And finally, in regard to max towing, the G550 has the advantage by 700 pounds. But that pretty much wraps up the exteriors. So now let's see which cabin has the most luxurious experience before we compare them on and off-road. So strolling up to the vehicles, both obviously have nice key fobs and the ability to remote start via their respective apps. Oddly enough, the G-Wagon actually does not have smart entry. However, the reason the Mercedes doesn't include smart entry is to keep the old school bank vault doors, which are the nicest shutting in the entire auto industry. Now, checking out the interiors, both are going to deliver copious amounts of luxury and beautiful designs. Keeping with the overall themes, they do have some old school trucky elements to the designs. And surprisingly, the Lexus has higher quality semi-aniline leather versus the significantly more expensive Mercedes. As far as the seats themselves though, the G550 includes many more ways of adjustment and massaging, in addition to the heating, ventilation, and 3-person memory seats that both of them have. Now, as far as the overall material quality, I'd say that both of them are pretty similar. Both have soft touch upper dashboards with stitching and real wood or aluminum trim throughout the middle. However, as we move down to the lower areas, the Lexus has the more generous use of leather versus the G-Wagon, which actually has hard touch plastic along the center tunnel. After startup, we can check out the gauges. The G has a fully digital setup, which is a lot more customizable than the analog one in the Lexus. This G-Wagon does not have a head-up display, however, which the Lexus does. And as we pull back to the steering wheels, they both obviously come with power adjustment and heating. Now when it comes to interior storage, neither of them deliver a huge amount like the exteriors would imply. The Lexus does, however, throw in a cool box, which is a nice touch. When shifting into reverse, surprisingly, only the much less expensive Lexus has a 360-degree camera as equipped. However, the Mercedes has automatic parallel and perpendicular parking abilities. And then in regard to the climate control systems, the Lexus has an extra fourth zone so that both rear seats can have their own settings. Now let's go ahead and give the premium audio systems a sample. Even though the LX has a few more speakers, the Burmester in the Mercedes has the fuller overall sound quality, and bonus points for having several beautiful metal speaker grills throughout the cabin. Alright, so now let's take a look at the displays themselves. They are actually exactly the same size as each other at 12.3 inches. However, they are very different in every other way. The G's screen can be operated via the dash knob or steering wheel touchpad, while the Lexus requires using the remote touch interface only, which is difficult to get used to. The LX is also using an older version of the Inform system, meaning that it still does not support Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, unlike the G. And finally, ending the front, both have regular-sized moonroofs. Now checking out the rear seats, neither of these are exactly space champs. They prioritize capability over utility, meaning you're looking at 39.5 inches of legroom in the G compared to 36 inches of legroom in the LX. However, headroom is very generous in both. Now in regard to rear luxury, both of them have rear vents with climate controls and heated seats, but the Lexus is missing USB ports. However, the Lexus fights back with two unusual functions: power sliding and ventilated rear seats. Plus, it also has rear window sunshades. But now let's talk about one really important factor, and that's the fact that the Lexus comes with a third row, whereas you cannot get one in the Mercedes. While not incredibly spacious, it's definitely better to at least have the option in a pinch. Moving around back, neither of these two have a traditional tailgate setup. On the LX, it opens in two parts, and the G-Class opens to the side. Once inside, the Lexus has a pretty significant 16% cargo capacity advantage. So with that, we wrap up the interiors. But now it's time for the best part, going for a drive. So starting out with the numbers, the Lexus has a naturally aspirated 5.7 liter V8, and the G-Wagon a 4 liter twin turbo V8. That means the Mercedes offers significantly more power, torque, and acceleration.
Oh my gosh, what? What? That doesn't even make sense. Like, this doesn't seem to obey the laws of physics. So, this is quite powerful.
Wow. Oh, it sounds so good. Nice.
Yeah, so obviously straight from the start you're going to recognize that big burly V8 that the LX has always had. It's the same 5.7 liter V8 as it is in the regular version of the LX, and it's going to be making 383 horsepower and 403 pound-feet of torque.
And you know, that's decent power figures. It's you know, enough to get this big heavy thing up to speed perfectly fine, but it's not gonna like knock your socks off or anything. It's not super fast, but it's definitely adequate for a vehicle of this size.
Now, as far as the transmissions, they have 8 and 9 speed transmissions on board respectively, which are both plenty responsive around town. And speaking of on-road handling, both offer a hefty, large, and solid feeling in the way they steer and in the way that the body responds to movement.
Now, as far as the transmission is concerned, that is a 9-speed automatic transmission. Drag race this Tesla here and offset its carbon savings.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about when the pavement ends. Both of them are too big to go up a tight pass, but they can handle just about anything else you throw at them. The G-Wagon exceeds the LX in ground clearance, approach angle, and especially departure angle, since it has a side-mounted exhaust. Obviously, both have full-time four-wheel drive. However, the G-Wagon has 3 locking differentials, which gives you a tremendous amount of control and capability.
You know, I imagine most of the owners are never going to take this off-roading, but it does have that capability if you ever do want to use it. This is honestly probably the most capable vehicle in the world. I would probably give it that distinction. That and the Land Cruiser are up there for some of the most capable vehicles money can buy.
The LX, however, has a cool system that it shares with the Land Cruiser called Turn Assist that allows it to make tight turns by locking the inside wheel. And finally, fuel economy numbers are dismal on both, at 14 mpg combined.
And that does mean that you're only going to have one fuel economy figure, and that's going to be 12, 16, 14. So, not great fuel economy. Don't think any of you guys expected that when you clicked on this video, but certainly not going to be good fuel economy.
Well guys, that's where we are going to finish up this comparison video. As you can probably tell, these SUVs are 2 of the toughest SUVs out there, and also 2 of the only ones that combine that with extreme luxury. For go anywhere luxury, there's really not a wrong choice between them. Anyway, thanks for joining us for this Car Confections face-off comparison. And we'd really appreciate if you'd subscribe to the channel so we can keep bringing you guys more content like this. Take care and stay safe out there.